one of the financial sector experts who has a 360-degree perspective of SEBI and who has observed it from all major institutions and from SEBI itself is Dr. M.S. Sahu. Dr. Sahu is a member of the Indian Economic Service, and around 1994 he was a deputy director in the Ministry of Finance. So actually present when SEBI was created. He later on, of course, came to SEBI as whole-time member for a substantial period of time, and then he went on to NSE as the economic advisor. So he could also observe SEBI as a regulator from the eyes of the regulated, and has also been an arbitrator. So, literally seen and implemented SEBI's rules as a regulator, as well as created them as a whole-time director. Dr. Sahu, it's a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you so much.
This is for the SEBI Virtual Museum and for those who want to understand the evolution of this institution and its major landmarks, its major principles. So I don't think there's a better person than you.
Thank you.
Let me start at the beginning. In 1994, you were an observer in the Ministry of Finance. You were seeing the creation of SEBI, but you are from the Indian Economic Service. That was the period of the great liberalization. So, what, in your view, were the fundamentals that created SEBI? Because I think it is the first real regulator.
Yeah, exactly. See, 1992 for Indian economy is a kind of watershed when we really moved to a market economy. And market economy comes with its own challenges. When you only see so much of freedom, there is a possibility of a misuse of freedom or market failure, or when people have freedom, you need to guide them, provide them a guided path. So then the realization came that it was not possible to govern a market economy centrally from the government of India. We need some changes in the governance edifice. And the standard tool available then, out 100 years of experience in the United States, that there are two tools which were added to this governance. One was that we create a new agency called regulator who has to deal with the market problems on a neutral basis. Neutral basis is important because government is a market participant often and has quite good expertise, is not influenced by any interest groups or political pressures. We want that kind of independence, predictability, and that agency must be so hands-on that it is able to react instantaneously. I used to generally quote from Mr. C.B. Bhabe, the role of a regulator. He was giving an example that it is something like that someone is flying at 30,000 feet high, the aircraft has developed a snag, and you don't have time or luxury to come down, repair, and then take up. You have to repair while flying. And we are going to a market economy, means in a market moves like that at instantaneous speed. And as you know how the stock markets move, a trade takes 6 milliseconds for a transaction. And for that, if you want the parliament to make the law and you will address the problem, it will not work. But then regulator needs some tools. That tool is called subordinate legislation. He has to make the regulations which becomes the bulk of the law. If you look at in the SEBI context, the SEBI Act, Depositories Act and Security Contracts Regulations Act taken together would be about 100 pages. But the regulations, bylaws, rules, all these taken together of SEBI, exchanges, depositories, they are on about 15,000 pages or so. So market requires instantaneous response, and laws, market cannot wait for parliament to make the law. So we did these two changes in governance edifice. The regulator and regulations were brought together to protect the freedom that was given to people, to provide a guided path for various transactions, like somebody wants to make an initial public offer, and to ensure that market does not fail.
That's true. Well, but in 92, when SEBI was created, it did not have as much powers as was needed. It was asking the intermediaries to come and list with it, to become members, get registered. But it didn't have teeth. For one thing, it didn't even have control over the issuers, the companies.
Correct.
So I read in your own paper on historical perspective that the real seminal powers came in 95 through
Correct.
the Securities Law Amendment Act.
Correct.
So can you tell us how important is that act?
SEBI Act 1992, that is the first ever regulatory statute created in India. So everyone was learning actually.
Yeah.
So at that time also there is a lot of apprehension from government circle that a new agency outside the government, can it really deliver? When you create an agency outside, say for example the securities market, the business allocation rules of Government of India says that securities market is the responsibility of Department of Economic Affairs.
Yeah.
Therefore, minister is accountable to Parliament. And if you give those powers to regulator and regulator exercise the powers, but minister remains answerable to Parliament. In other contexts, some minister responded that, how do I explain to Parliament when tariffs are fixed by regulator? So initial days there is a lot of hesitation, apprehension, even from government side. There is hesitation from regulated side, but from government side there was hesitation. So that way, in the 92, since we are making an experiment, a basic skeleton was made. I call that what was done was only an agencyfication. Regulator, we call somebody a regulator only if it makes regulations, enforces regulations. Yes. In 92 statute, SEBI had power to make regulations with prior approval of government.
Oh.
If SEBI has to file a complaint with a criminal court, it requires a prior approval of the government.
Oh.
SEBI has to penalize somebody, its powers are very limited. So if it did not have the powers to really make regulations, enforce regulations, then it was not a true regulator. So everything, then it has a concept kind of agencyfication. So first thing that was done was by the Amendment Act, 25th January 1995, that SEBI was allowed to make regulations without prior approval of the government. At that time, everybody believed that there are various clubs. If one does not behave well, you suspend and cancel the registration. And that was the power only available to SEBI. If some intermediary is not behaving well, cancel or suspend the registration. But that was not also very explicit. But then, as I told, if you have to enforce the law, you must have a way to penalize the people. Problem with suspension and cancellation was that often, if you suspend the registration of a merchant banker or broker or a depository participant, it is the clients who suffer more than the intermediary itself. Or people who play in the market, do mischief, manipulation, bigger guys, they are not intermediaries whose registration you can cancel. You need alternative remedy for them. And there are institutions like the exchanges, depositories, whatever they do, you really cannot cancel their registration. So then some alternative was thought of, and that alternative was, let us empower them to impose monetary penalty, and some side things were done also. But the big issue at that time was that how can a non-court, a agency, statutory body impose monetary penalty for various contraventions. This is something a sovereign power of the government cannot be given. Lot of resistance, but credit goes to two enlightened persons who were on the SEBI board, but they were Dr. P.J. Nayak, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Mr. C. Achyutan, Joint Secretary, Legal Affairs, who later on became presiding officer of the Securities Appellate Tribunal. These two people played a key role in convincing the authorities who matter in government that the powers can be given, but there can be some checks and balances. So finally, it was agreed at the highest level that regulators, because even then, Securities Exchange Commission, then or even today, they do not have powers, they have to go to court. So, but Government of India then agreed to do it subject to three conditions. One was that each specific contravention along with the associated amount of penalties shall be written down in the law. There will be an adjudication process, that process shall be conducted as per rules made by the central government, and there will be an appellate authority. Then came Securities Appellate Tribunal.
In the 95?
In 95 legislation, and that's where also Mr. Achyutan came as its presiding officer. So that is how SEBI was given power really to make regulations, enforce regulations. And you just mentioned about the issuers, because again, since this was an experiment, in the initial days, SEBI tried to bring discipline, because this is a market for securities issued by the companies. But then the trading used to happen through brokers, merchant bankers who make the public issue. So SEBI tried to bring discipline in the market through its advices or directions to merchant bankers, bank brokers. But that was not adequate because companies were not under its jurisdiction. That's why we had a situation from 92 to 95 or so many fly-by-night operators. But then it was decided that unless you give jurisdiction to SEBI over the issuers of company, 1995 Amendment Act gave that jurisdiction, and in fact that became the timeline. Thereafter, we do not have a single fly-by-night operator.
Yes, that's true. And also, SEBI had been given enough power that its decisions can't be challenged in a civil court. It has to be challenged in a high court.
Yes, in fact, that is another interesting story. When the Securities Appellate Tribunal was created, till that time, central government was the appellate authority of SEBI.
Oh, okay.
But then there are not many cases. And no one thought about that time, but since a monetary penalty was created, Securities Appellate Tribunal was created, and the appeals from orders, adjudicating officer orders imposing monetary penalty will go there.
Oh.
But for other orders of suspension, cancellation or any other direction, that continued with the central government.
Okay.
So, in a particular matter, in the matter of Hindustan Lever Limited, HLL matter, insider trading case, SEBI passed an order which was reversed by the central government.
Okay.
Then SEBI went on appeal. So, SEBI and government were on opposite sides, which became a very embarrassing situation. But on at theoretical level, government constitutes SEBI. Government has a nominee on a SEBI board.
Yes.
Government makes rules for many matters of SEBI. And how can then this will be the appellate authority?
Yeah.
Government has powers to give direction to SEBI. So therefore, it was a conflict of interest situation. And when this embarrassment came, then it was decided that let entire appeal, all appeals
Live
against every orders of SEBI shall lie before the Securities Appellate Tribunal. And therefore, in 2002, Securities Appellate Tribunal was strengthened, made a 3-person body, its capacity was expanded.
That's true. Well, let's come to issues, sir. How closely involved were you with the setting up of NSE? That was a big evolution for the securities market because it was screen based.
Yeah, that was actually I think of the 2 or 3 biggest things that changed the Indian market is the screen-based, automated screen-based trading system. I was not then actually in the sight of the capital market, but I can explain that there was a time, say till 91, 92, Bombay Stock Exchange was the dominant stock exchange with 70-80% of the volumes, but they had almost become a monopolist, and many reforms they were opposing. They were on strike, exchanges were closed. So government had set up a committee under Mr. Pherwani to provide an alternative and more efficient means and having a more kind of national market. Because when you have the earlier market in the absence
more
of,
Bombay-centric.
In the absence of dematerialization, which is another big thing that happened, market was local market, or shares had to move physically. So therefore, that committee gave a path that we should create something like this. It will have online. IBBI was mandated to set it up. Then that exchange came. But I came to National Stock Exchange much later when I dealt with some other issues, but not the automated screen-based trading system.
Yeah, I did go over the setting up of NSE a little bit with Mr. Bhave. But the big thing, which I think you were a huge catalyst, was in the dematerialization of shares and the Depositories Act. Can you tell us who mooted the idea? I think it was your idea. And how did it get
no, I would not
political
claim.
approval? And
I would not claim this was my idea. I will tell you the story. Yes, for 20 years, as I told, I came to finance in 94. I did the main securities SEBI Amendment Act 1995, which really converted SEBI to a regulator. And I was still very new to the things. I was working under the direction, guidance of Dr. P.J. Naik, who was Joint Secretary and who was a veteran in financial markets. But at that time, P.J. Naik's term was coming to an end because he was in central deputation, Karnataka cadre IAS officer. Many things happened during his time, including the screen-based trading, many things happened. But as he was going away, the then Finance Secretary Mantek Singh requested him, this work, depository work, which is going on for last 15 years, so much of files have accumulated. People have traveled abroad to see the things. Why not you stay for a few months
and see
that this work is done, then we will be almost complete in major reforms. He was reluctant to stay, but he told that I will be happy to guide from outside. So their understanding was that I was put at his disposal, he was guiding me from understanding. Actually, the basic structure, basic idea or intellectual part of that came from Dr. Naik. he advised me that he believed strongly that regulators have to have close link with the market, because there is a, unlike the political system, parliament, we lose touch. Today what is happening, the regulator and regulatory gap has increased everywhere. So unless you interact with them more aggressively, you don't really understand. So you talk to the market people. So I had a series of meetings, people from Bombay went, many people, and particularly a lot of wisdom I got from Mr. Chandrasekhar.
Okay.
He was the managing director of Stockholding Corporation of India. He was preparing to become the fast depository, central depository, and he had built up a physical space to store these securities certificates. The idea was that it will be in immobilized form. Accounts will be maintained digitally, but physical shares will exist. So he remained ready. He was the main person to give me guidance, and of course I consulted many other people. But two basic things what Dr. Nayak had told me, that two things are very critical. The rest market people know, that is perfectly fine. But two things we should ensure from government side, big, to make it really big and with a long-term vision, that we will not allow single depository. We want competition.
Competition. Oh, okay.
We had experience of BSE and NSE by that time. So we can't rely on just one agency, when that will, unless it is a government agency. And second was that we had then realized that this servicing a paper-based security system was becoming too costly. So we have to get rid of that. And at that time, world had not thought of actually. So that is how I was the person involved, did the drafting, legislation, all the running, and it came by an ordinance on, I think, 20th September 1995. Ordinance lapsed twice. There are 2-3 major changes it carried, which had opposition, but basic structure was not changed. So when the ordinance came with these two things, that multiple depository and dematerialized form, that came as a surprise for many.
Oh, okay. The dematerialized form must have been a very pleasant surprise ultimately.
Yes. No, this deposit legislation did 2-3 more. Along with the deposit legislation, to make this work, Companies Act was changed also.
Yes.
The big change there was that earlier the board of directors had a sort of unfettered right to refuse transfer of a share. And they had 60 days time to do it, and sometimes 60 days becomes 600 days.
Yes.
Does not work.
And the investor's money is stuck.
If not money is stuck, your shares become illiquid then. Illiquid then, and so then.
So that power was taken away from issuers.
Companies Act was amended to say that shares of public limited companies shall be freely transferable. That was the first provision, which got resistance from people. That's why the ordinance lapsed. It has to be reenacted, but that provision remains today. But that law made a slight division, that let's segregate economic rights from political rights. The moment in the depository system share is transferred, economic rights accrue. You can keep on contesting political rights, you go to then the company law board. That segregation remains, but transfer is instantaneous today. So deposit legislation provided, deposit legislation, the problem was, one was that free transferability, so second was actual transfer required physical movement of share certificates all across the country. When the settlement date comes on exchange, 30, 40, 50 lorries of certificates were moving. And in the process, there were some were lost, some theft, some forgery, and some servicing a system, physical papers carrying, that created, and if I do not get the share certificate, I can't trade it, liquidity was not there. And the volumes, transaction volumes have been increasing, particularly after NSE came in. NSE market became an all India market. All India market means I do not know with whom I am trading. That person could be located in Kashmir, could be somewhere else, but that certificate has to come to me. So therefore, we
it was logical that screen-based trading has to be followed up.
Yes, and but on this, further major reforms depended actually. So transferability, then let us dematerialize these securities. That is just to avoid the cost of a physical certificate. Why to fell the trees to make the certificates? So, but we went for a partial dematerialization mode. That means that investor has a right whether to hold shares in demat mode
or paper mode.
If so, which depository, which participant, that's something is a fundamental property, right? But later on, somehow scheduling was done or incentive was done. If you want to trade on exchanges, you have to go through this.
Demat.
That was done. So this was a partial dematerialization mode was thought of. And third was actually depository services. That really meant that depositories shall maintain ownership records and transfer ownership by electronic records. So these three are the features of this legislation, and that was quite a watershed at the 95 in the world, and Demat story of India is a great success story with lessons for rest of the world.
Oh yes, and the numbers, the size.
Yes.
And probably caliber of people, speaking in different languages with different levels of financial literacy.
Yes, and that allowed us to move for further reforms like the rolling settlement. Today we have a T+1 because we don't have to carry physical certificates. Now things moved.
Yeah, and
In fact, we could not move faster because money was not moving as fast as securities are moving.
No, now there is UPI.
Now everything is there.
Yes.
Now everything instantaneous is possible.
Yes. Now digitally we are up there in everything finance.
Yes.
I take your point. So the other big amendment act was the Securities Law Second Amendment Act. That I think brought derivatives, enabled SEBI to regulate derivatives.
Yes. In fact, in the 1995 Amendment Act, when SEBI was really made a regulator, at that time, the Law Securities Contracts Regulations Act in its long title prohibited options in securities.
Oh, okay. Explicitly prohibited.
In the top of the line,
Okay.
long title. And then there is section 16 or 19 something which told that options are prohibited. And it empowered government to prohibit any transaction in securities. Government using that power in 1969, Morarji Desai was the finance minister. They had a notification saying that all forward tradings are prohibited.
Oh.
So 69 to 83 or so,
There was no forward trading.
But then people gradually found out the ways to do it. In government securities, RBI found out a ready purchase transaction.
Yes.
So an exception was carved out from 69. Brokers found out something called Badla.
Yes.
And these Badla created a problem in course of time. So then government thought we have to close all these indirect routes. Let's give a fair route of derivatives.
Legitimate.
So in 1995, the prohibitions on all these were lifted.
Oh, 95 itself it was lifted.
But market does not develop unless you give the regulatory comfort. Just saying that there is no ban, you can do anything, people don't do. People always want a guided path. So that's why, since it did not happen, then Dr. L.C. Gupta committee was set up. That gave a framework for how the derivatives in India will be traded, and particularly how law will enable. He suggested, that committee proposed that you amend the definition of securities to include derivatives and then define what is derivatives. And once it is a security, SEBI gets jurisdiction, exchange framework applies, everything else applies. And that is what done in 1999 Amendment Act. And then everything was done following Dr. L.C. Gupta's path he guided, including, very interesting thing was that Dr. Gupta guided that derivative is a dangerous product. Therefore, we need people, qualified people to deal with these instruments. And of course, at that time and today also in Indian contract it says that wagering contract is unlawful. So since in derivatives, the outcome depends on something, this could be considered wagering. So again, this act was amended to say that notwithstanding anything in contract act, derivative contracts shall be legal if traded on exchanges and settled on clearing corporations. So Dr. Gupta committee told that the users of a derivative system, they must be qualified. That created another new revolution in the education space in the securities market.
Yes, that was needed. That was perhaps led to a generation of traders who were adept at it. Now, I will have more questions on dematerialization, time permitting, but the other big D in which your name is often mentioned is demutualization of the stock exchanges, and that was the crying need for the Bombay Stock Exchange. How did the idea germinate, and could you carry it?
The idea was not a new idea because the first demutualized exchange in the country was OTCI, which of course does not exist. So, but the idea was already there. Then came National Stock Exchange, which was a demutualized structure.
Yeah.
And people found the difference in governance of National Stock Exchange with other exchanges. Particularly that the National Stock Exchange made brokership available on tap. So it's no more that you pay a premium to get something. So
You just get the license on tap.
so people had already known the concept, and worldwide, actually the stock exchanges worldwide, like the Bombay Stock Exchange, were association of persons to start with 100 years ago, not for profit organizations.
Yes.
But NSE came that I will be a corporate entity, I will be for profit entity, I will be demutualized entity. And in the 90s, worldwide, all exchanges were converting to that form.
Okay, demutualized form.
But in our case, we were continuing until something went wrong. That wrong was the Ketan Park incident.
Yes.
So then the Joint Parliamentary Committee recommended that the link between the brokers being on the governing board, being the shareholder and being the trader does not work out. The exchanges are strange animals that they have a commercial role, they have a regulatory role, and if these two roles there is a conflict, so then the private interest will take precedence over the public interest. So we need some way to do this, and since already NSE OTCI was launched, we knew that, let us have the same structure applied to other stock exchanges. Therefore, by law, it was mandated that all non-demutualized exchanges shall be corporatized, demutualized under a scheme within 1 year, otherwise they have to close.
Oh, okay.
But the process of demutualization was very complicated.
Yes.
Because
It went for many years.
no, the law actually passed in, I think, 2005 January or so.
Yeah, but BSC was demutualized much later, isn't it?
No, it happened on 20th August 2005.
Okay.
It's about within 6 months of the legislation coming, it happened, but it required a lot of negotiation.
Okay.
The negotiation came because of two reasons. One was that this was an association of persons. Association of persons traditionally enjoyed certain benefits from government. I am not sure about what BSc, but generally they got, let's say, free land from government,
Yeah.
because they can't distribute profits.
Okay.
So that's how they have grown up with the money of people. That was the thinking. Therefore, when we demutualize that, nothing should go to the existing broker cum shareholders. No asset that ever exists, no money, no surplus, anything today, or any asset purchased with the current money, recycled, subsequent species of assets,
Can go to them.
nothing can ever go to them. This is the exchange property. On that, negotiations continued for
very long.
4, 5, 6 months. Finally, it was settled. So the structure envisaged 2, 3 things. One was it has to be corporatized.
Yes.
Only when corporatized, you will get a shareholder member. Then you will get a trading member. So all those who are trading member come shareholder member today, they will get some share. You decide how many shares you want to give, but they have to pay money to become a shareholder.
Okay.
You can't use existing surplus.
Oh.
You can't distribute. BSc probably had huge money at that time. There is a demand that, okay, we are closing it, we will go away, give all this money, we will share and go. This is we have created.
Yes.
So that was the idea. Since it is public property, no one can take it. But tax laws were changed, stamp duty was changed actually to ensure that, supposing the BSc association persons becoming BSc limited, that means a transfer of property, but that will not require stamp duty.
Okay.
The shareholders will get, from the existing people will get shareholding right or trading right, that will not account for capital gains tax.
Okay. So all those
But
concessions.
all those were done, but you cannot take away anything from here. So they got shareholding right, subscribe for shares, they got shareholding right, but they cannot hold at any point of time within a year more than 51% shares of the company.
Okay.
That means their role in general body was limited to 49%. Their role in a board was limited to 25%.
Okay. Oh.
And told that now you can't have a categories of members. Membership will be available on tap, people will come, walk away, as and when they please, and everybody will be subject to uniform terms.
Okay.
So that is how it went through.
Okay. You said that the process of demutualization, dematerialization were all lessons from the Ketan Parikh scam. The
Dematerialization
was earlier, right?
was Harshad Mehta scam. No, it had an origin there
Okay.
because
Yeah,
one
that
could have,
bankers' receipts and
you
all.
can have many physical receipts.
Yes.
You can manufacture receipts.
So one scam created a beautiful institution.
Dematerialization. Yes, this scams created a dematerialization and probably did many others also.
Yes.
Yes, scam is an opportunity to
To
improve.
change. Likewise, the Satyam scam.
Yes, the entire corporate governance, the Companies Act 2013 is an outcome of Satyam.
Okay.
The creation of National Financial Reporting Authority, if I'm
Then NFRA.
NFRA, is solely because of the Satyam, because there is no one specifically to regulate the auditors.
The auditors.
And SEBI came up with something also quite starting from disclosure of a pledged shares.
Yes.
So several corporate governance improvements have happened following this Satyam Survey.
Okay. There is another angle of yours, and that is something SEBI would treasure and for which SEBI is treasured. The educational contributions that you have made, the certification that several intermediaries have to go through, and most important, I would think, setting up of the NISM. So, can you take us through all that you have contributed and SEBI has contributed for education of the system?
I had joined the National Stock Exchange in December 1999.
Okay.
That was just the time the derivative law was passed and L.C. Gupta committee implementation was to be done. Certified people will do the trading. One Mr. Ashish Chauhan, he was then with the National Stock Exchange. In fact, I would give a lot of credit to him for the spreading the knowledge about derivatives. But he had the technical mind that we will create an online examination system.
Okay.
In fact, the basic software under his guidance was created, but then I took it further. We started with the examination in a derivatives module. Again, we don't have the knowledge, but we have to write somehow. I remember one Khyama Fernandes from Goa Institute of Management. I went there, sat with her. We wrote study material. So we started certification. Many people failed, and then they told, "What is this? Your exam system is wrong. How can we are chartered accountants or some other professional or broker have been 30 years, 40 years? How can we fail this examination?" And at that time also, the NSE, the depository, mutual funds, they all got into this idea that we should have a certified people.
Okay.
And NCFM is the module, people should pass mutual fund module, depository module to have the user access. Tough resistance from market people, how can you ask us to trade? But gradually market accepted that. And the certificates will be valid for 3 years.
Yes.
They have to pass and get the every 3 years.
Get updated.
But it got accepted in a course of time. But in 2001, within 1 year of creating an NCFM, it became very popular, made even some money at that time. The 500 rupees was the fee with which you give the examination and get a study material, get the result instantaneously. First time happening in India. You go to a cafe, take exam, as you come out, you know your score. But with that, it became so even commercially viable that then I had suggested NSE that this is the time we should hype it up and make it a full-fledged academic kind of thing. But I think NSE had their constraints at that time, didn't work out. But in 2002, I landed up in SEBI as a Chief General Manager.
Okay.
Mr. G.N. Bajpai was then talking about Securities Market Training Institute. In fact, this National Institute of Securities Market, I had visualized in NSE, I had written an article in 2001 giving the shape of NISM, it will run courses like this. There is a full-fledged article on that. So I pursued that idea with Mr. Bajpai. He told us that is the idea, we have to go for NISM.
Okay.
Then we took to budget announcement, got land, and successive chairmen had a role in making it and bringing it to this place. And quite a few certificates from NCFM were diverted to NISM.
Oh, okay. No, certainly it has done a lot of help.
And that became model for other areas also.
Okay.
And that helped me at IBBI also. On the day one, I could start an examination for insolvency.
Yes, yes.
Insolvency professional, valuation professional, they also take this. And today in the market, we have several online examinations, but basic software is that.
Okay. No, that certainly is very important, and it also makes the entire community of financial financial participants upgrade themselves because we are being faced with new instruments, new challenges, new ways, new technology.
Correct.
So that is a seminal contribution, sir. We are coming to the end of the interview, so I have to ask you this question. What would you say is the high point in the evolution of SEBI? That's part one of the question. And part two, for you, what is the high point in your involvement in SEBI? What would you really treasure?
I would treasure dematerialization, writing that statute which was done in 95 ahead of everyone, and that law does not require any change till now. And that has done dramatic improvements in the cost of transaction, speed, accuracy, liquidity, anything you can talk about.
Sir, safety.
Safety.
Yes.
So that is a fundamental structure, and I take pride that I was associated with that. And as I told, I got guidance from outside from Dr. Nayak, but in a sense I was directly dealing with the minister on this.
Okay.
And SEBI has gone up and down as an organization in the life of, say like in 2001, Ketan Parekh, SEBI stock was a little down. But it has gone through also very good times. The initial days was difficult days when the
regulated was challenging.
Regulated were not accepting that where from this strange animal has come and sitting between government and us and trying to harass us.
Yes.
But gradually that became, not only SEBI got established, the statute that was formed for SEBI became the model for every other regulator in the country, and the practices SEBI developed, like SEBI started in 2002 or 3, the discussion paper, consult the stakeholders,
Yes.
or you write orders and orders will be in the public domain. They have the advisory committee, several good practices SEBI created. This was not statutory requirement.
Yes.
But that also became law in other statutes, or at least by practice every regulator followed. Yes. So today SEBI is a model, the most evolved regulator, most prominent regulator, but it has gone through some ups and downs.
Oh, but it's learnt from every down. As you said,
Yes.
from Harshad Mehta came the need for dematerialization, and the need for SEBI itself was accepted because of that scam. And
But
then,
in a sense, I would say this Harshad Mehta scam was not really in the security market.
no, it was SEBI came after that.
No, and it was in the government security market.
It was in money market. Yes.
Money market somewhere else. But SEBI got lessons from there, and things were changed.
Yes. I think that was very important. With people like you around, with each adversity, the institution went to higher highs because it learnt better ways of writing laws, better ways of implementing them. But thank you very much, sir, for putting all this on record. And I think for the record of the museum, for all the viewers, we must add that Dr. Sahu was instrumental in several important developments, not the least the dematerialization of securities, the writing up of that legislation itself, and for me what is very precious, the NISM, because that institute is constantly upgrading the entire financial sector experts to newer and newer heights of excellence, and that is helping us face the new challenges, technological and otherwise, that come in the path of any financial institution. Thank you very much, Dr. Sahu.
Thank you so much.